The foundation for this strategy can be traced back before, but you see it very clearly stated in the NGO forum of the 2001 Durban Conference. 1,500 NGOs, largely funded by Canadian, European, and other governments, as well as the Ford Foundation, that adopted a final declaration that clearly articulated the use of the legal system, the very amorphous international legal system, including universal jurisdiction in a number of countries, including libel laws, including even property claims and other things, to use the legal system around the world to promote their political agenda, the isolation of Israel through these cases, and the branding of Israel as the world's greatest war criminal. That's a very clearly articulated statement through the NGO Forum Declaration. Whether it's the case against Ariel Sharon in Belgium in 2001 that was brought by a number of NGOs with the active involvement of Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, or the Corey versus Caterpillar case, or the one that's starting in Montreal in the next few days, which is really, if you look at the cases, you often see these are very, very marginal in terms of their legal content, but that's not the purpose. The purpose of all of these cases is primarily to create publicity, to link the word Israel with war crimes, with apartheid, with violations of international humanitarian law and various other forms. Now Al-Haq and Amnesty are leading, trying to sue the British government for having sold military equipment or defensive equipment for Israel for use in Gaza as having been a violation of British law. And again, the main goal here is public relations. In fact, it's just a trivial amount, even if the suit were to succeed and Britain were to say, no, we won't sell these things anymore, it's not going to affect Israeli military capabilities. That's not the goal. The goal is the political and propaganda impact. This is a form of soft power, a term which academics and political science are very familiar with. Joseph Nye has written about it. The Americans woke up to this around the time of 9/11. Why do they all hate us? What are they doing better than we're doing? How are we being labeled? How is the press being manipulated? Very much connected to a post-ideological agenda in which the West is bad, democracy is bad, we're all responsible and guilty of colonialism, neo-colonialism, neo-imperialism. It's a very strong ideology against nation states, against national sovereignty, and Israel is now considered to be, in many ways, the worst of the offenders. Being American is bad, being an American ally is worse, being an Israeli Zionist national state, all of those factors go together, and the ideology plays a central role in these soft power wars. The Goldstone Gaza inquiry is not going to change anything about the way in which international law is applied unless we're very surprised. But what we are going to see is further abuse of this system. Now, Professor Goldstone was a member of Human Rights Watch. He was a member of the board up until about a week or two ago when NGO Monitor pointed out to him that this constituted a conflict of interest, that he had acted as a prosecutor in promoting this agenda and made some statements during the Gaza War, including a signatory to an amnesty letter which already determined Israeli policy as war crimes. He claimed to be shocked to the core by events in Gaza, of which he had no firsthand knowledge, because all he saw were these reports by NGOs who weren't even on the ground. And there were, I remind you, there are no members of the media on the ground either who were reporting, other than people who were affiliated with Hamas. Now, one can argue that's a different seminar or conference about whether that was a good or bad Israeli policy. But all of these statements predetermined the case. Now, our view was that Goldstone should recuse himself because he had done this and he was a member of the HRW board. Instead, he resigned from the HRW board. But that's an acknowledgement of the conflict of interest that is true for almost every member of these kinds of inquiries. The Center for Constitutional Rights is an American organization based in New York. Again, you see the Ford Foundation Open Society Institute. They're the ones who brought the cases against Avi Dichter and Moshe Ya'alon in the US. The cases were dismissed on appeal, but the main point was they got publicity. It was in the press. And the words Israel and the pictures of Israeli officials, government officials, ministers, generals, and the term war crimes were linked together. And that's the main goal, and we see it over and over again.